New Orleans is an American city unlike any other, famous for its cuisine, music, and festivals. In the late 20th century, it came to be known widely as the Big Easy, reflecting the locals' penchant for a good time and unruffled nature. But New Orleans' past as a center for the slave trade and its lurid associations with voodoo means that the Crescent City boasts a darkness few other cities in the nation can match. Chicago and New York have their gangsters, Los Angeles its movie stars, but New Orleans boasts a secret world primed by supernatural energy, a land of voodoo kings and queens, people to be respected and sometimes feared. A tormenting hex can be worse than a belly full of lead. Almost everything we know about voodoo usually comes from films, and Hollywood has been very selective about which aspects of the religion to focus on, misrepresenting rites and rituals as something heathen and blasphemous, sometimes involving human sacrifice, satanic black magic, and in the Haitian versions, zombies, those brought back from the grave and forced to work on the plantations and do their master's bidding, their souls trapped, their bodies controlled by a wicked Bokur. Voodoo, as represented in the movies, is tantamount to devil worshipping. The secretive bayou setting, the rhythmic pounding of drums, the crackle of torchlight, shadowed bodies swaying in blasphemous displays of demonic possession led fevered imaginations to interpret these things as sacrilegious rites. In Christian minds, voodoo is satanic and closely associated with witchcraft, necromancy, and other black arts. H.P. Lovecraft wrote in The Call of Cthulhu, 1928, that the sinister cult at the center of his tale was, quote, more diabolic than even the blackest of the African voodoo circles, end quote. Very often, voodoo's political and spiritual roots are ignored in favor of racist prejudice and plain ignorance. As with Haitian voodoo, Louisiana voodoo's roots lie in the grotesque slave trade and the African diaspora. Forcibly exiled from their homelands and treated as subhuman, they were worked to death, discarded, and replenished with a new intake. The South, a landscape bewitched by Gothic atmosphere and moods, is permanently haunted by the ghosts of the plantation's dead, and their extraordinary legacy is Louisiana voodoo, a greatly misunderstood religion like its equally infamous cousin. Founded in 1718 by the French, New Orleans became a pawn in the European Empire maneuverings. The Spanish eventually took it from France, and the British even attempted an invasion. Due to the Saint Domingue slave revolt of 1791 and the founding of the first Black Western Republic, Haiti, in 1804, the French, led by Napoleon Bonaparte, worried about war with the British, abandoned the former colony and then sold New Orleans in a gigantic tract of territory stretching from the Gulf of Mexico to southern Canada. The 1803 Louisiana Purchase brought New Orleans into the fold of the United States, but European and African influence left its mark in the people, architecture, language, and religion. For instance, the city gave admittance to gens de couleur libre, free people of color, meaning African culture and voodoo grew exponentially and formed a specific part of the melting pot culture. The celebrated birthplace and home of jazz, the port was also the entry point into the U.S. lands for African and Afro-Caribbean slaves who, like some gens de couleur libre, brought with them the syncretic religion known as Haitian voodoo, a system of ancient rites and beliefs which intermingled with exposure to Roman Catholicism. Haiti is the most famous voodoo practicing country on the planet. As the saying goes, the country is 85% Roman Catholic and 110% voodoo. The island's history has coursed a sad trajectory from heaven on earth to poverty-stricken hell due to centuries of political strife. Because African rituals were forbidden and seen as a threat, practitioners found in Roman Catholic iconography and teachings a way to incorporate Western religion into their own ancient belief systems. If caught in worship, they were whipped. If they prayed during the whipping, owners were even more incensed, fearing a curse, and sometimes killed them outright or threatened to. In South Carolina, a 1739 uprising by Congolese enslaved people led to reprisals by lawmakers. Although voodoo played no significant role in the rebellion, the Negro Act of 1740 banned drums, horn, and other loud instruments, the kinds of equipment used in ceremonies. Enslaved people were also forbidden to learn to write or congregate in groups. Voodoo dates back further in time than the 2,000-year-old story of Jesus Christ to 6,000 years, with its origin in Vodun, a complex religion of West African countries such as Benin, where Vodun is the state religion. Vodun has its root in the word voodoo, translated in the Fon language as spirit. With regional variations, the Fon, Ewe, Yoruba people of West Africa believe in Nana Buluku, the divine creator, with her two sons. Lisa and Mawu represent the sun and moon. Unlike Christian teachings of God, Nana Buluku is seen as unknowable, leaving human trials and tribulations to be overseen by voodoo spirits, and there are numerous assortments to worship. Vodun and its Caribbean and American offspring do not recognize a distinction between what we might call the sacred and the profane, between the natural and supernatural. Anybody can communicate with the spirits after undergoing the required learning. At a glance, Vodun looks to be diametrically opposed to forming any kinship with Roman Catholicism. The cosmology of Vodun, with its myriad spirits, known as Loas, seem totally at odds with Catholic teachings about heaven and hell, salvation or damnation. Vodun, Haitian voodoo, and, by extension, Louisiana voodoo, is far more interested in a cyclical relationship between life and death, with a focus on the transmigration of the spirit. In Catholic tradition, possession by spirits is seen as an evil interaction and a direct assault and threat upon a person's soul, whereas in Vodun, Haitian voodoo, and the Louisiana version, it's a key focal aspect of the ritual and ceremony, a way of channeling and communing with ancestors. The possessed person consciously allows the spirit in. There is no fear of the dead. The Loas, who divines access between spirits and worshippers, is Papa Leba. From the horrors of slavery sprung an attempt to reclaim a culture and heritage. The coast of Western and Central Africa was prime hunting grounds for slave traders. Once clasped in irons and shipped thousands of miles across the Atlantic, attempts were made by slavers to dehumanize people by robbing them of individuality and freedom. Slave owners thought allowing workers to keep hold of their traditions and culture would possibly lead to rebellion and uprisings. The development of Vodun into Haitian voodoo allowed enslaved people to take part in their heritage and culture while creating a new form of worship based on exposure to Catholicism. Here then, religious belief was also an act of political defiance. As Vodun is monotheistic, the new syncretic vision was indeed compatible with Roman Catholicism's belief in one God. Loas, and their function as figures to offer prayers to, were akin to the Catholic saints, so the switch wasn't too difficult. With no scriptures or artifacts, Vodun, Haitian voodoo, and Louisiana voodoo are essentially about healing and experiences of transcendence. The emphasis is on rituals, incorporating song and dance into proceedings. The body is a medium and vessel for communing with the Loas and the dead. Vodun spread and entered different territories, other Caribbean islands, the coast of South America, and mainland USA. The variations in rituals and beliefs allowed for distinct regional offshoots to come into fruition. In Haiti, creators such as Zambi or Nana Buluku became Bondi, based on the French bon Dieu, meaning good God. And the Loas became the spirits, a mythology involving warring nations and families. The Loas have connections to Roman Catholic saints, such as the snake deity Le Grand Zambi's association with Saint Patrick. This later figure, Le Grand Zambi, would have a major role when Haitian voodoo spread to New Orleans and to Louisiana. One piece of paraphernalia, above all others, seized upon as an abomination with exclusively malevolent intentions, the voodoo doll. Associated with curses, manipulation, and bad vibes, this totem springs from the Fon people of Benin and has been linked to Congo Minkisi, which means things which do things. Minkisi are containers housing spirits of the dead and can be used by the living for a host of reasons, including harming people. In Haitian voodoo, these figurines are known as pwen. Voodoo dolls became a prominent, if misunderstood, icon in Louisiana voodoo, in part due to the most famous voodoo queen of all, Marie Laveau, a devout Catholic and voodoo practitioner who helped the religion take some interesting turns. As voodoo made landfall in North America, Native American influences, European black magic, and Louisiana folklore left their mark on the religion, bringing what is known as hoodoo into existence. Hoodoo, also known as root work, is the practice of making potions and charms from mixtures of roots, bodily fluids, and herbs. Botanical knowledge essentially trumps any specific religious tenet, although hoodoo considers the Bible to be the best available grimoire, a book of spells. Hoodoo doctors created their own belief system from all sorts of potions, foot track magic said to harness the power of a person's footprint by using dirt from the track bottled up and buried, or hot foot powder sprinkled on a target's doorstep said to bring them bad luck. Hoodoo was primarily practiced by Afro-Americans and is connected to and based on the older Vodun. Marie Laveau became a powerful and influential figure in New Orleans, developing and promoting the traditions into the wider community, including the white elites of society. She is responsible for the boom in the voodoo doll, the religious move into superstition, the use of gree-gree, a West African Wolof word for a talisman which brings the wearer luck and protects them from harm, worship of Le Grand Zambi, not to be confused with zombies. It's a snake god. The serpent represents the spiritual balance between genders, sacred knowledge, and worship. The origin of the name has been attributed to Marie Laveau's python, Zambi, but there are arguments it springs from the Bantu word Zambi, the serpent deity. Either way, boa constrictors became part of the theater of Louisiana voodoo. Once Vodun reached the Caribbean and America, women became involved in rituals. In Haiti, they are known as hogans and mambos. voodoos. In Louisiana voodoo, this transformed into the kings and queens of voodoo, who became not just priests and priestesses of their religion, but people to whom congregations looked for spells and potions, as well as respected community leaders. Dr. John, also known as Bayou John, was another famous 19th century voodooist, said to have mentored Laveau. Both of these historical figures were renowned in their time and lived during the New Orleans voodoo heyday between 1820 and 1860. John was a tattooed former enslaved person and sailor from Senegal, whose powers involved resurrection and healing. It is said that he could heal those on the verge of death. Born in 1937, Fred Staten moved from Haiti to New Orleans and styled himself Papa Midnight, crafting a stage routine which figured him biting the heads off live chickens during rituals, earning the sobriquet Chicken Man. The commercialization of Haitian voodoo and Louisiana voodoo ended up a racket preying upon gullible folks, and in New Orleans has become primarily a must-experienced thing for tourists. Sales in mojos, gree-gree, and charm bags known as oanga became a means of easy money at extortionate sums. It's a long time since the controversial Marie Laveau commanded huge audiences in Congo Square, said to be in their thousands. How many identify their religion as New Orleans, Louisiana voodoo today is in thousands at most, maybe 2 or 3% of citizens, and mostly centered around the 7th Ward, away from the tourist traps. There remain those who take voodoo seriously and respectfully. The founding of the Voodoo Spiritual Temple in 1990 served to carry on the traditions handed down, showcasing the great spirituality at the heart of voodoo and reclaimed it from the decades of misinformation, propaganda, and lies. Baron Samedi is one of, if not the most iconic of voodoo spirits, partly thanks to a character named Baron Samedi in the James Bond adventure Live and Let Die. Haitian dictator Francois Duvalier, aka Papa Doc, imitated characteristics of the underworld god, such as speaking in a nasal tone and always wearing black to keep his subjects frightened, and in the spooky belief that he was Baron Samedi incarnate. Samedi guards over the underworld and the souls of the dead. He greets the dead and takes them to Guinea. There is no hell in voodoo, only a kind of waiting room which souls must pass through before being reunited with their ancestors. Samedi, named after the French word for Saturday, is known for his love of rude jokes, being a bit of a trickster, and a liking for cigars and white rum. With his top hat, cane, and skeleton face, he cuts an imposing figure, though he is not malevolent. Samedi is synchronized with Saint Expedite, a saint of murky origins who has an association with Mardi Gras, though Baron Samedi and Saint Expedite are not synchronized in Haitian voodoo. Early 19th century New Orleans had a municipal code for enslaved people. It was instigated long before, in the 18th century, by the French, and was continued during the city's Spanish period and after the Louisiana Purchase, and known as the Code Noir. Compared to other parts of the U.S., Louisiana Creoles were not as strict in enforcing assimilation on enslaved people, allowing their culture to take root in the city's fabric. One part of this Code Noir allowed enslaved people Sundays off, and by 1817, a patch of land to congregate in, which today lies in the Treme neighborhood. This designated area became known as Congo Square. Every Sunday, enslaved enslaved people and gens de couleur libre would hang out, sell snacks such as deep-fried rice cakes coated in sugar, dance, and play drums. The weekly gathering became an attraction for white citizens and tourists who would look on at the vivid spectacle. Although the enslaved people and others were heavily restricted and monitored, the place thrived, and its association with voodoo, legend has it, came about because after the sun sank low, voodooists would gather by the Grande Dame Marie Laveau to commence and partake in rituals. References to Louisiana's voodoo and hoodoo appeared early on in the blues tunes of Robert Johnson, a guitarist and singer said to have sold his soul at the crossroads. It might be surprising to discover voodoo has influenced not only jazz and the blues, but everything from rock and roll to heavy metal. Audiences screamed with delight and some with outrage when Elvis Presley swayed his hips with abandon, or at the time Jerry Lee Lewis smashed the keys of piano like he was possessed. Blues musicians such as Muddy Waters influenced Southern church groups and fed into the era of white boys taking the blues and transforming it into rock, with famed guitarist Eric Clapton, Keith Richards, and others constantly name-checking the Deep South as its inspiration. Screamin' Jay Hawkins went one step further by incorporating voodoo imagery into his act and wrote a hoodoo-themed classic, I Put a Spell on You. We have voodoo to thank for rock stars going wild on stage and embracing the beat with a fervor with echoes of religiosity to it. The rock star is much like the voodoo king or queen leading the congregation. Hey y'all, listen, High Velocity Philosophy is a brand new channel, and I'm just gonna do whatever I want on here. And if you like this kind of content, I really appreciate it if you liked, shared, and subscribed to this channel, alright? Peace.